Good morning. Welcome to the Greenville Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Mary Margaret Dragoon, and I've been a member for 39 years. I've served on the board in various committees, and I've been involved with pastoral care for a while. Whether you have been with us for our Sundays for a long time or are visiting us for the first time today, we welcome you to our service. This congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with participation open to all who agree to live into our principles, mission, and values. We are a welcoming congregation to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, races, ethnicities, and abilities, and we unconditionally welcome you as your full, authentic self to our community of caring and commitment to grow as spiritual and moral beings. Our congregational mission is to strengthen our connections to one another and our planet by enlivening minds and spirits, building community through liberating love, and advocating fiercely for justice. It is a custom in this congregation to acknowledge visitors and newcomers. If this is your first time here, would you mind raising your hands so that we can acknowledge you? Thanks so much for joining us this morning. All are invited to join us for coffee after the service. New and newer folks are invited to grab a green mug. You'll find them in the fellowship hall located just inside the door, and that helps us spot you so that we can have conversation with you. You are also welcome to fill out one of the green cards that can be found in the backs of the pews so that we can keep in touch. Simply drop the card in the offering basket or in the box at the welcome table in the foyer. Please know that whatever your religious history, whatever your personal theology, all people of goodwill are welcome here. Your presence makes us better. Your presence makes us whole. Our service will now begin.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to read a little bit from a book called Cries of the Spirit by Marilyn Sewell, who was a retired UU minister who collected great sayings from other people and also is an author in her own right. She writes, autonomy, independence, these are the cultural fantasies of a people who attempt to control matter and to try to conquer death. We are dependent every moment of every day upon each other for our daily bread, for example, and that is only the beginning. And Claire Bateman writes, there is a debt between us even now that our autonomy cannot remove, a bent towards something more than tolerance, older than kindness, oddly akin to love.
Good morning, Goof. I'm the Reverend Chris Hockman. So happy to see all of your faces this morning. Our call to worship this morning is from the UU minister, Joan Javier Duval. Here is where you can lay it down. Lay down all that you have carried, the weight of the world that has rounded your back, leaving you aching and exhausted. Here is where healing begins, where burdens are set down and alongside one another's, their magnitude does not seem as great. Here is where the door is thrown open and the light can lift away the shadows, and what was hidden can now be seen. Here is where you can rest, where nothing is expected, but that you bring all of who you are into the presence of the holy and of this loving community. Come, let us worship together. Please rise and body your spirit for hymn 1008 in the Teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Good morning. I'm David Funderburk. I'm the Director of Religious Education here at GOOF. And before our story today, I just want to point out there's an invitation for you to our next family fellowship night in the order of service today. So please take a look at that. In a week and a half on Wednesday, May 15th, we'll have food and fun for the whole family in the fellowship hall, and I would love for you to join us for that. Please RSVP ahead of time so we know how much food to get. So now I'd like to welcome any children or youth or anyone of any age who wants to come hear our story, to come sit on the floor at the base of the steps or in the front pews to come listen up close. Check? Okay. wasn't turning on for a second. Hello. Welcome. So our story today, our service today is about caring for each other. And as you get older, you may find that life is full of change. And sometimes those changes are hard. Sometimes if someone has a change where if they lose a job, or they lose their house, or they get sick, or they lose a loved one, they may really need someone in their community to care for them. So I am going to welcome you all to listen to this story about a very young person who's not very old at all, who cared for someone in their community who lost their memory. And the story is called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge. There was once a small boy called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, and what's more, he wasn't very old either. His house was next door to an old people's home, and he knew all the people who lived there. He liked Miss Jordan, who played the organ. He listened to Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. He played with Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. He ran errands for Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. He admired Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. But his favorite person of all was Miss Nancy Allison Delacourt Cooper, because she had 4 names just as he did. He called her Miss Nancy and told her all his secrets. One day, Wilfred Gordon heard his mother and father talking about Miss Nancy. "Poor old thing," said his mother. "Why is she a poor old thing?" asked Wilfred Gordon. "Because she's lost her memory," said his father. It isn't surprising," said his mother. "After all, she's 96. "What's a memory?" asked Wilfred Gordon. He was always asking questions. "It is something you remember," said his father. But Wilfred Gordon wanted to know more, so he called on Miss Jordan, who played the organ. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something warm, my child, something warm." He called on Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something from long ago, me lad, something from long ago." He called on Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something that makes you cry, my boy, something that makes you cry." Do y'all know what cricket is? It's kind of like baseball, but they play it in England. I just wanted to make sure. He called on Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something that makes you laugh, my darling, something that makes you laugh." He called on Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something as precious as gold, young man, something as precious as gold." So Wilfred Gordon went home again to look for memories for Miss Nancy, because she had lost her own. He looked for the shoebox of shells he had found long ago last summer and put them gently in a basket. He found the puppet on strings, which always made everyone laugh, and he put that in the basket too. He remembered with sadness the medal which his grandfather had given him, and he placed it gently next to the shells.
next, he found his football, which was as precious as gold. And last of all, on his way to Miss Nancy's, he went into the hen house and took a fresh, warm egg from under a hen. Then, Willifred Gordon called on Miss Nancy and gave her each thing, one by one. "What a dear, strange child to bring me all these wonderful things," thought Miss Nancy. Then she started to remember. She held the warm egg and told Willifred Gordon about the tiny speckled blue eggs she had once found in a bird's nest in her aunt's garden. She put a shell to her ear and remembered going to the beach by train long ago, and how hot she had felt in her button-up boots. She touched the metal and talked sadly of the big brother she had loved who had gone to the war and never returned. She smiled at the puppet on strings and remembered the one she had shown her sister and how she had laughed with a mouthful of porridge. She bounced the football to Willifred Gordon and remembered the day she had met him and all the secrets they had told. And the two of them smiled and smiled because Miss Nancy's memory had been found again by a small boy who wasn't very old either. So I wonder if you can find someone who you know that might need some care today and find a way to care for them. So thank you for listening. Now, as we leave and go to classes today, I want to mention one thing. Those who are going to Spirit Play are going to go to the last classroom down the hallway, and there will be a person there to greet you, but here today there's a catch. I'm the one who's going to greet you. So go slowly so I can catch up, okay? You can come.
Our congregation is entirely self-governed by democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide the financial support for our many ministries we do ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central, as central to our personal and institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. Thank you. It is custom in this fellowship to share the joys and sorrows that shape our lives, honoring each one with the lighting of a candle. We recognize that life is not always easy, and we all have moments of celebration and struggle. We believe that by sharing these experiences with one another, we can celebrate with, support, and uplift each other as we navigate the significant events of our lives. And the first joy today is that from Day, who writes, "My joy today is that I'll be taking a much-needed break in the form of a personal hiatus throughout the month of May. I will be reconnecting with my sense of spirituality by writing intense journal entries and communicating with the trees, which need my help during a cicada invasion, sharing well wishes for all." This joy is from Heather Hack. It's overjoyed to celebrate Beltane today. After the service, we hope to share this joy with everyone as we dance around the maypole. Please come and join us. A sorrow. Today we mourn the passing of a beloved chosen family and friend member, Denise. She passed due to complications from cancer. Our hearts and support are with her family. She passed this morning. Hail the traveler, Wes and Janie. We will light a final candle representing all the joys and sorrows we present in our hearts that remain unspoken. We will now observe a brief moment of silence before the words for meditation.
Our meditation words are from Susan Manker Seal. We speak to the God, the goddess, the spirit of life, the eternal. We speak to the mysterious thread that connects us one to the other and to the universe. We speak to the deep wisdom at the center of our beings. We embody the yearning of all people to touch each other more deeply, to hear each other more keenly, to see each other's joys and sorrows as our own, and know that we are not alone, unless we create solitude for ourselves. And even then, community awaits us. Out of our yearning, we have come to this religious community. May we help each other to proclaim the possibilities we see, to create the community we desire, to worship what is worthy in our lives, to teach the truth as we know it, and to serve justice in all the ways that we can, to the end that our yearning is assuaged and our lives fulfilled in one another. Let us observe the faith that is unique to each of us and still the same. Today, the theme of our service is care, or what we call in the congregational context, pastoral care, going back to the Christian idea of sheep, and the pastor is the one out in the pasture caring for the sheep, although I don't think we ourselves like to think of ourselves as sheep, and it's not a great metaphor. So why are we talking about pastoral care today, you may be wondering? And there are several reasons. It's always good to be reminded about the services provided by our congregants in this congregation. And it's always good to know about volunteer opportunities. And this is an especially exciting time because we will be enhancing our pastoral care program in a way that will help to provide a more consistent long-term emotional support to our congregants most in need. But I'm going to back up a little bit and talk a little bit about all of the reasoning and justification beyond for doing pastoral care. And the reasons we provide care to one another in the congregation, is pretty self-evident, actually. Yes, we can take, yet we can take cues from this congregation's number one value, which is love, right? That's pretty much a single word justification for caring for one another, isn't it? And our mission talks about strengthening connections and building community. Care's definitely a part of that. And our covenant says we will listen deeply and support each other through both joy and struggle. And our second highest value of interdependence ties us into this web of mutuality in which care for one another is a necessity because we are all connected, we are all related. It's not just about one of us, it's about the whole. Now, there are also more practical reasons and current events that make pastoral care more needed perhaps than ever in our congregations. This is from a UU minister named Dennis Meacham. He says, "It is an often repeated scenario. A congregant suffers the loss of a loved one and receives quick and heartfelt attention from the minister and fellow church members. Soon, however, the congregation is left to a very private and often prolonged grief as the minister and other church members return to the routines of their lives and the attention demanded by the challenges of daily living. Ministers are expected to respond to the spiritual needs of each and every congregant, but overburdened by other duties, they can find themselves in a losing battle." I'm just going to add on to that saying, I'm not in that position right now, so if you would like to speak with me, there's plenty of time on my calendar, and I would love to talk to you. I'll let you know if I become overburdened. But again, I still can't do it all by myself. That's a bit much. Continuing on, 3 historically unique developments have put enormous pressure on ministers and congregants to maintain pastoral care services beyond the usual short period that constitutes a crisis in a person's life. First, we live in a time when members of an extended family can no longer be counted on to remain in close proximity. In past generations, people could rely on family to provide the support they needed. Today, employment opportunities and other things lure people away from their childhood homes to settle not just down the road, but across the state or the country. Meanwhile, aging parents are moving through the time of life when they are likely to need ongoing attention and care. Second, we now live with an increasingly aging population. Approximately 9% of adults were over age 65 back in the year 2000. By 2030, that number will rise to more than 20%. 1 in 5 adults will be a senior citizen. Now, if you're not a senior citizen already, quickly do the math in your head and figure out if you will be by 2030. Now, I want everyone who's going to be a senior citizen, who is now or will be a senior citizen in 2030, to raise their hand. Look around, people. Okay? This is not purely theoretical, right? This trend will have a considerable impact on all aspects of society, including our faith communities. How we have traditionally organized our church lives by our governance, our mission, and our programming will actually become less relevant than ever because there will be more and more seniors in our congregations who will need attention and support from their church community. And the active elderly will continue to contribute in new ways and bring new spiritual insight into our church lives, while other elders will require more care. Now, the third development is in part responsible for our aging population. Why is our population aging so much? Well, it turns out that people no longer die in great numbers as they once did from infectious diseases, from acute illness. Through the 19th century, the leading causes of death were diseases such as tuberculosis, pneumonia, and influenza. And today, most folks decline slowly with chronic illnesses. The top causes of death being heart disease, cancer, stroke, you know about all these respiratory illnesses, and Alzheimer's. So medical, social, and pastoral care needs of church members with such illnesses may go on for decades, for a very long time. Yet, any one of us, regardless of our age, may need compassionate attention from someone willing to be present to us as we move through a time of trial and distress. So even though it's partially about aging, anyone at any time could be suffering some type of crisis where they would be in need of support. So, therefore, a well-organized, trained, and supervised group of lay care providers can ensure that no member of a congregation of any size ever falls through the cracks. Now, so this divides what we think of care into two parts. The first part under the system, the congregant care, encompasses, two categories. The first includes any program that provides support to congregants without any expectation of repeated contact with a particular person. So this would be your providing rides, providing meals, leading support groups. This falls into this category of care activities. Now, the second category is just one activity, and this is the provision of pastoral care by one church member to another church member for as long as the circumstances require. We call these folks, these care providers, Pastoral Care Associates, or PCAs. All right, so that's the end of Dennis Meacham there. So I'll tell you about our current program in case you're not already familiar with it. In this program, we have a team of monthly care coordinators, and they do a lot. They follow up with people who are ill, they send greeting cards, they deploy meals and other helpful services from volunteers. And in addition to coordinating these activities, they actually end up performing a lot of these activities themselves. And every month, these coordinators trade off. So every month, it's a different set of two people working on these things. Now, through this system, a lot of amazing work has gotten done. But right now, partially due to the ironically aging of our pastoral care providers and their many, many years of service that makes them a little tired and burdened with, doing a lot rather than coordinating it a lot, and some of them themselves have been recipients of pastoral care on the pastoral team. So we have these coordinators who are really attempting to do a lot, from the, soup to nuts, from the casseroles to the cards to keeping in touch with people and people who are experiencing long-term difficulties. It is a really big job. So since audience participation seems to be working, I'd like to test the reach of our existing pastoral care program right now. So I'd like you to raise your hand if you've had any contact with our pastoral care function. That means, or a family member of yours. So if you've received help with respite care, visits, greeting cards, phone calls, meals, rides, any kind of assistance, or the pastoral care group's assistance with the memorial service for a partner or a loved one. How many people who have experienced that? Okay, that's a lot. And think about all the people who are watching from home or might not be here today. So that is a really good reach, right? So now I'm going to ask our current pastoral care coordinators who are here today to stand up so we can clap for them. Yay! Yay. So they've done amazing work, and they're looking really good for people who are tired, I'm just going to say. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this new structure for pastoral care. I dropped quite a few big breadcrumbs through the reading. So we're going to continue to have monthly care coordinators who we hope will actually be true coordinators of a larger pool of other volunteers who provide shorter term services such as rides and meals and cards and respite care and checking in with those expecting short-term difficulties. So the short term, the example is someone who is fully functioning, really good on their own, but suddenly they break their hand and they can't drive or prepare meals. That's the kind of short-term situation we're talking about, where the broken hand is going to heal and the person is going to be up and going, after a short amount of time. So all of these shorter-term helping activities, we're also rebranding them. We're going to call these activities Goof Helps, with the idea that anybody at Goof can help, anybody at almost any time. We will continue to have Goof Helps coordinators who will do the coordinating, and then just about anyone else in the congregation who is willing and able is encouraged to sign up to be a helper under Goof Helps. There will be opportunities to sign up after service in the fellowship hall for basically more information and for signing up for everything I'm talking about today. And there's also information in your order of service with some contact information. So if you sign up for Goof Helps, opportunities come up sporadically. They're not predictable, things come up. The idea is to push out these opportunities to a larger group of people so that, somebody can respond. So if you sign up, you're not obligated to respond all the time. The idea is big pool, more responses, fewer people having to do tons of work if everybody is willing to pick up a little bit. That is our operating theory. So, we expand the pool of possible volunteers, we will be able to do more and wear fewer people out. So if coordinating helping efforts appeals to you, if you like to organize rather than do, you may consider becoming a Goof Helps coordinator. If doing occasional helping activities is your thing, you may consider signing up for Goof Helps. Now, there's also something new and exciting we hope will come with congregational interest. Under the Goof Helps umbrella, they've been pursuing starting a support group for caregivers of family members with chronic illness or disability. And Debbie Plonky, she's a member of Retired Family Therapist, and she has a nursing background, has offered to facilitate this group. So, and the purpose will be for group members to share feelings and their experiences as a caregiver, to learn from ideas and experiences of others, to provide a safe place to talk through problems and choices related to caregiving, and probably most importantly, to promote the health and well-being of the caregiver. Because, anyone who has known anyone or done caregiving, it is very, very hard work and isolating work. So if you or others you know of might have an interest in a support group for caregivers, please again use the contact information in your insert or see the Pastoral Care Goof Helps folks in the fellowship hall after service. All right, we have, and then we will be adding one brand new function to our program, and that will be a Pastoral Care Associate, otherwise known as a PCA program. And this was described earlier in the reading. A hallmark of a Pastoral Care Associate program is a one-on-one, consistent, personal, and ongoing relationship between the associate and the one congregant in their care. And this care continues on a regular basis until the care and support is no longer needed. In this case, the care consists of simply not doing services, but emotional support and listening. And this typically involves maybe 2 visits per month and maybe some additional contact, maybe on a weekly basis by phone or checking in at church or things like that. So there are definite limits to it. You're not this person's constant companion and 24/7 helper. It's a boundaried situation. And the caring relationship is confidential. And I would typically be the only other person who knows about this relationship. No one else would know that a particular person has a PCA, let alone what they're discussing with them. This type of confidentiality is necessary, really, to build trust, so people can talk about the real things that are going on in their lives, and recipients can feel safe. So it really is relationship, not doing stuff, that really is the defining factor of the Pastoral Care Associates program. And this particular group of PCAs will be under my supervision, and I will be responsible for their ongoing training and support, because they really will act like a cadre of minister clones going out and expanding my reach. They don't have to be just like me, but you know. I hope they wouldn't, actually. Yet, you know, if a person receiving assistance from a PCA needs concrete services, you know, the PCA can help them find community resources, but the needs can also be communicated to Goof Helps. And Goof Helps will also be able to identify people who might benefit from a PCA, so these two entities will be in communication and work together. Now, because this is a new role, we are looking for people to fill the Pastoral Care Associate role. And there's certain personality characteristics that seem to go best with this job. And because of its kind of sensitive nature, the role is usually filled through a careful screening and selection process. But I wouldn't let that deter you if you're interested. Please, you know, check into it at the very least. Because the diversity of ages and genders, again, this does not have to be a solely female-identified thing. In fact, you know, we want different genders and life experiences on the team, because different people have different needs for different, you know, resonate best with different types of people. Quiet and introverted people often make great PCAs because they are often patient listeners, because they're not spending the whole time talking. You know, often introverts enjoy one-on-one interactions rather than big group activities. Have you ever noticed there might be certain people in your life whose personality and their demeanor make you feel very safe and comfortable and listened to when you talk to them, you know? If you know a person like that and they happen to be part of this fellowship, you might tell them that they'd make a great pastoral care associate. Other attributes necessary to be a good PCA, really, you have to have strong emotional stability. You can have problems, but those problems have to be like under control and not defining your existence. You know, good mental health is key, a strong sense of empathy, you know, the ability to walk in another person's shoes, the ability to be fully present to another person in times of difficulty. So you have to kind of have this ability to handle other people's sadness or stress. And you also shouldn't be overburdened with your own problems, because you'd run the risk of accidentally becoming the care recipient instead of the caregiver, right? So the PCAs receive training in active listening, which is a very different kind of listening than we typically do in our normal everyday lives. You know, being non-judgmental and having humility are also important. Pastoral care providers have to put their own egos aside, their own opinions and their ideas, and simply reflect what the person in care is saying, so they may process their own feelings and determine their own actions. This may sound familiar to those of you who are in covenant circles. It's the same deep listening process, the same, you know, not fixing, not suggesting, not telling people what to do. So if you enjoy that process, you might also think about becoming a PCA. And finally, the ability to keep deep confidences is crucial. So another really good reason to have PCAs is often when they are identified in the congregation, they're often approached by people in need who are not necessarily comfortable speaking with the minister about a problem, or don't think their problem is big enough to bring to the minister. So having PCAs as eyes and ears identifying folks in need in the congregation, or to be there to help people, is very helpful. So again, if you're interested in becoming a PCA, please contact Mary Margaret at the email listed in the order of service insert, or come find Pastoral Care in the fellowship hall after service. Same goes if you believe you could benefit from having a pastoral care associate, or think of another person might benefit from one, let us know. Because this program is just beginning, it's going to take a while. We're going to try and get some associates trained over the summer to start up officially in the fall. And our program reach is really dependent on how many PCAs we have, because they only work with one person at a time. All right, so I threw out a whole lot of information. So the quick recap is when it comes to volunteering, there are 3 ways to do it. The first way would be to become a PCA, like I was talking about. Another way to help would be become a Goof Helps coordinator. And then the third level would be to become a Goof Helps volunteer, which would be occasional helping with areas where you believe you can be of help. All right, that's a lot. So really, one of life's greatest gifts is the opportunity to care for one another. You know, the ministry of pastoral care is really a path to an ever-deepening personal spiritual growth. It's, reaching out to others is really a spiritual practice, and it's spiritually transformative for the people giving it as well as the people receiving it. And it's a way to put our UU values into action. It's also a way to deepen relationships and increase within this congregation the culture of caring. So Dennis Meacham says regarding this, our challenge as a people of faith is to overcome our personal barriers to empathetic concern and support for our fellow human beings. These barriers can be discovered through introspection. If our hearts are full of anger, resentment, envy, or fear, it is difficult to be concerned about others. Yet simply recognizing such feelings in ourselves tells us much about how those in distress are feeling. In this recognition of the commonality of suffering, we can begin to let go of our distress, let go of our sense that our hurt is unique, and begin to understand in what ways we need to treat others to relieve the pain and suffering that are unavoidable aspects of the human condition. By empathizing, we move our attention from ourselves to the other. Such empathy can begin to bring us a measure of serenity and strength. Empathy is transformative in its impact on our well-being. So whether or not you choose to participate in any of these programs, you can still practice empathy and care in so many ways throughout your life, and it will not only benefit others, but it will also benefit you. May we make it so. All right, it's time to sing again already. Please rise in body or spirit to sing 1007 in the Teal hymnal. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Please join me by saying the chalice words in your order of service as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words today are from Andrew Pakula. As you prepare to leave this sacred space, pack away a piece of this congregation in your heart. Wrap it carefully like a precious gem. Carry it with you through the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, remind you of all that is good and true, until you gather here again in this place of love. Before I salsa out of the room today, and anyone who would like to dance out with me, I'm more than happy to have company. I'll say to you, dear ones, go in peace, return in love, and blessed be. Is it gonna pick up? It's gonna pick up, right? Okay.